Hey everyone, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with a book tag that has probably came and went by now, but I'm not always like quick on the draw with these. This is the Faces of Horror book tag, which was created by Juan at Plagued by Visions. He's got a really great channel. He also talks about horror, so like if you're watching my channel, it's very likely that you've also come across his. So this is a really interesting tag, and you really should watch his video because he talks a lot about how the world perceives horror and how their perception is a lot of the times, you know, it really doesn't give horror the credit that it deserves for being such a broad genre full of many emotions, you know what I mean? It's not just slashing and stabbing, although like we also love that, right? So yeah, he's got a lot of really thoughtful things to say in the beginning of his video, so definitely go watch that. But also, here I am, and I'm gonna do this fucking tag. The first prompt is a horror story that scared or disturbed you. For this, I chose a book I have not talked about in quite a while, but this is Bedbugs by Ben H. Winters, and this was a really effective horror story. I don't think it's one that, I don't know, I think I'm just not a person who gets like scared by a book. It's usually like I'm immersed in something really intense and then something like outside of the book happens, like my cat will knock something over, or one time we were fixing our doorbell and our doorbell rang in the middle of the night, and that like scared the shit out of me because I was reading like a scary book. But not very often a book can scare me, but a book can definitely get under my skin, and that's exactly what Bedbugs did. I don't even want to touch it. Look at this. Ooh. Ooh, ew. I don't like bugs. I really don't fucking like bugs. I know that some bugs are really useful, like I'm not gonna smash a bee or something like that, but like I don't want them in my fucking house. I don't want them near me. I don't want them touching me. It really, like, I get the shivers when I think about a bug crawling on me. You know what I mean? Anyway, we're not talking about my bug phobia. We're talking about bed bugs. And this is about a family living in New York. They are trying to find a new place to live, and there has been a spate of like bed bug infestations taking over different neighborhoods in New York. And so like, you know, that's kind of buzzing around your head in this story. You know, they let you know that this could be a possibility, and that really feeds into the paranoia of the mother in this story. I feel like I have a hair in my mouth. The mom's starting to get this information about bedbug infestations happening places, and she starts to get really paranoid when they find a new place to live. It's a little bit underpriced. Like they're like, oh, this is cheaper than it should be, which they see as like a good omen, but like also, why would it be so cheap? You know what I mean? Why? You know, like if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But they move in there, and the mother starts to think she's seeing bed bugs, and she gets very paranoid about this. And the whole book, her like paranoia is growing, and you're not really sure if she is seeing these things. So this is a book that really got under my skin. It like made me like lift up my bed covers and like dust everything off before I got into my bed. It's just so creepy. Like I checking my scalp to make sure I don't have any like ticks, like bumps on my skin, you know, things like that. It was just very a very effectively written horror novel. The next prompt is a horror story that made you depressed or it made you cry. Oh my gosh, absolutely 100% Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This book is just really fucking sad. It's a fucking sad book. It's terribly sad. Let's see, this is about a young family, and they move to this really nice kind of countryside home, but the road in front of their house often has semi trucks that barrel by at a very fast speed. Now, I'm not sure how far exactly to go into the synopsis because like at this point most people know what this is about, right? But also like what if there's someone who doesn't? So, anyways, this road causes a family tragedy, and the neighbor across the street introduces the dad to this Native American burial ground, where in the past people have been buried and brought back to life, but unfortunately they're not quite like themselves, and this young family learns for themselves exactly what that means. This is just a terribly, terribly sad story. It makes me want to cry even thinking about it, especially being a parent, because this is, you know, a family with children, and it really gets me. The last time I read this was about, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. I listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Michael C. Hall. It's just like even more sad when he tells me the story, you know what I mean? So if you want to like feel bad for a week, here is a book that will do that. The next prompt is a horror story that made you laugh. And of course, for this, I had to choose something written by Max Booth III, who is one of the most fucking funniest people on the internet writing books. He's so fucking funny. This is Touch the Night, and this is a story of two friends who are out definitely getting into trouble, but they're like apprehended by the police outside one of their homes, and the police car doesn't look like any of the other ones they're familiar with in their little town. And the police take them and then they disappear. So we're following these two boys, but we're also following their mothers, who get together when their boys are missing, right? And when they go to the police, and the police are like, well, your kids did this bad thing, they probably ran away. And the mom's like, wait, so you didn't like take them in? Because I saw a police car pick them up yesterday. And the sheriff's like, no, of course we didn't do that. But you know, they don't really know whether to believe these police or not, and they have to find their boys themselves. And Max Booth just really, gosh, he just puts together the strangest situations you could ever think of, and he's so funny while making, because like I wouldn't call this a horror comedy. It's terribly bleak, it's disturbing, it's disgusting, but he's funny also sometimes, and I think he's got a good balance of being funny and also being dark, you know, and so that is, I don't know, he's just really good at it. He's a very talented writer. Prompt number 4 is a horror story that made you angry. Almost immediately, I thought of The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, which is not a book I loved because it's based on a true story, but that's the part that makes me upset, right? Because in this book that is based on a true story, it really closely mirrors what happened in the story. So it's like, if you know, I'm sorry, I feel like I have cat hair all over my stupid face. If you know the story of Sylvia Likens, it's almost like you don't need to read this book. And when I went into it, I expected a little bit more because, you know, people talk about how terribly sad and, you know, how terribly sad and horrible this book is. But it's like not as horrible as the real story, you know what I mean? So it's like an almost a toned down version of what happened. But it does very closely mirror, I don't know, I feel like I'm contradicting myself. It does mirror what happened in the crime. It's just, I don't know. It's never going to be as terrible as the real life story, you know what I mean? That's why I didn't love the book. But the fact that it's telling the story of, you know, a girl who's really hurt very badly by somebody she was supposed to be able to trust. And that, okay, so I guess I should tell you, fuck. This story, I can't remember what the real names are. Meg is the girl, and Meg and her little sister are staying with a woman who like offered to take them in for their parents who are, and now I'm like not sure what, like am I saying things from what really happened, or if I'm coming up with things from the story, but I believe their parents were like working, and they had to work out of town, and for some reason they couldn't take their daughters with. I think in real life they were working for like a carnival or something like that. But this woman, Ruth, in the book, offers to take Meg and her sister, and you know, the parents just have to send money every month and it will be fine. She has like a bunch of kids and shit, and she really needs the money, really is what it is. So Ruth is a single parent. She's raising like 4 or 5 kids, and now also Meg and her sister. And Gertie's really had a rough, oh my gosh, Gertie's the real woman. Ruth has had a rough go of it. She starts to take out her like disdain for her life on this nice, young, pretty girl, Meg, who can't do anything about it. And Ruth involves both like her own children and like kids around the neighborhood in basically torturing Meg. And so what makes me angry is that this is a real story, and that a real girl was tortured to death. It's so terrible. And you know, this book talks about that. So if you're, I don't know, in the mood, I mean, I say that with an incredulous look on my face, but like also I read this book, so I know you people are like me, where sometimes it's easier to cope with life if you're reading something that is more shocking than obviously what's going on with your life. It's a way to cope, you know what I mean? So here it is. That book made me very upset. Prompt number 5 is a horror story that's important to you. This is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon by Stephen King. This is about, I think she's 12? No, oh my gosh, no, she's 9. Oh my gosh, she's almost my daughter's age. I can't imagine my daughter doing this, but 9-year-old Trisha gets lost in the woods. She's hiking with her mom and her brother. They're arguing. She steps off the trail to go pee really quick and quickly cannot find her way back. And she just sinks deeper and deeper into this miles and miles of woods. And she has to find a way to survive out there. And what I love about this book is there is the survival horror element, where obviously Trisha needs to keep herself alive, but not just that, but there is like a supernatural, very fucking spooky entity that's following her the whole time. This book, I read this when I was, I think, about 10. Yeah, that's about right. And I was going through some really tumultuous stuff between my parents. I had like inadvertently started a custody, like a really terrible custody battle, when I had been living with my mom, and I told my dad that like, oh, it would be cool to live here all the time, you know? And like, oh my God, that just like really fucked up my entire fucking childhood. And this was a couple years like into that, when my parents were, I mean, it was just basically like constant shit like for years after that. But this was a few years after it started, when I was like, man, this is like actually really terrible, and like I don't want to be doing this. And my mom had read this book, and this was like the first Stephen King that I was ever able to read. And it's a book about a young girl who's going through a really hard time, and she has to like save herself. And I felt like I could not save myself, and I couldn't escape like this situation that I felt like I had caused. And it was, I don't know, it's just like a book that really spoke to me, especially as a young girl. And it's a book that I read over and over again as like a story that brings me a lot of comfort. And which is weird, because like it's a really like kind of really scary horror story, you know, but it's definitely a comfort read to me now. And I like to think that Trisha gave me a little bit of gumption to, you know, stick it out through all the shit I was going through when I first read this book, and for many years after. Okay, the last prompt is a non-horror story that you would consider horror. Tampa by Alissa Nutting. Oh my gosh, this is like 100% not a horror story, but 100% also a horror story at the same time. We follow this woman named Celeste, who is like a middle school teacher. And Celeste has right now the perfect life for her. She is a teacher. She's married to somebody who isn't like frequently home. He's got kind of like his own shit going on. And that's perfect for her because Celeste is really interested in like 12-year-old boys. She's a pedophile. And this is the person whose head we're in for the entire book. So it's a hard read. It's really disturbing. It makes your stomach turn. Gosh, I don't know. Like, this is definitely not a book for most people, but it's so well written. It's so well written. And so, like, it's bearable to be seeing things from Celeste's point of view for the entire book. Yeah, this is just, like I said, a really hard read, a really gut-wrenching read. And it's a non-horror story that is definitely horrific because, I mean, there are people out there like this every day. I think one of the most interesting things about this book is, you know, kind of the points it makes about how we treat women who are predators. We treat them much differently than the way we treat a man who would be in the same position, like a teacher, a male teacher who is molesting and having sex with young teenagers. You know what I mean? We would definitely not see that the same way. So it gives you a lot to think about, for sure. Well, that is the Faces of Horror book tag, of course, by Juan at Plagued by Visions. Definitely go check his video out. He's got a lot of great things to say and a lot of good picks. So that's what I have today. I'd love to know if you've done this book tag, whether it's like a blog or a post or a video. I'd love to watch it. That's all I have for you though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will definitely be seeing you later. Goodbye.